Greetings, Dave Syme here again. I'm a securities attorney and I am also a principal in Tartan Capital Advisors. And today we have an interesting topic. Well, it's actually a boring topic, but you're going to find it very interesting because it has significant impact on our clientele. And that is stock option programs. And there's two kinds of stock option programs, which makes it a little bit confusing. And then there's the 83B election, which puts a whole different color on the whole discussion. And I wanted to kind of go through this and explain to you what the statutory program is, what the non-statutory program is, and why 83B almost makes it so it doesn't matter. If you actually want to speed ahead in the video, you can cut to the chase in the bottom line. But let's go through it. I'll try to make it painless. Okay, so a statutory stock option program is available only to employees of the company. Okay, so not consultants, not attorneys, not friends, not vendors. It's just for employees. Okay, and when the options are initially granted, it's not a taxable event. When the stock person converts from the option into the stock, that's also not a taxable event. That's important. Also, and then finally, when they go and actually sell the stock, that's when it's a taxable event. Now, there's a question. When they finally sell the stock, which is the only taxable event, okay, is it considered long-term capital gains or short-term capital gains? Because short-term capital gains is ordinary income, just like W-2 earnings. So you don't want that, okay? You want to avoid that. The rule is, in order for the ultimate sale to be considered long-term capital gains, it has to be either 2 years from the date that the option was granted or 1 year from the date it was exercised. The option is granted, year 0, and then right around year 1.5, the guy converts and sells. That's short-term capital gains because it wasn't 2 years from the grant, okay? That's the statutory stock option program parameters, okay? Now let's switch over and let's talk about non-statutory. Now the good thing about non-statutory is you can give it to consultants, you can give it to vendors, you can give it to your attorneys, you can give it to, you can give it to people that are involved with the company but not actual employees, okay? So, however, you don't get as good treatment in a non-statutory. And let's talk about the difference. The difference is, let's say that you give a guy a stock year 0, okay? And then as things go on, let's say year 18 months out, he exercises and turns it into stock, okay? So he goes from the option into the actual stock. Believe it or not, that's taxable right when he does that, even though he hasn't sold it. All he did was transfer from an option into a stock. That's a taxable event. So if you gave him an option to buy at 10, it wasn't taxable then, it goes forward, and when he exercises at 18, he's got $8 a share of ordinary taxable income, and he didn't even sell it yet, okay? And then if he holds it then for more than a year after he's converted, then between the 18 and the 28 that it went to, that can be long-term capital gains if he holds it more than a year. But he's already paid tax on it when he converted it. Now he's got to go a whole nother year from when he converted it. Now, there's a very important little hidden gotcha in here that we have to be clear on. When you exercise an option and turn it into a stock, you have to pay a lot of money. I mean, let's say you've got $300,000 worth of stock options and you want to convert it from the option into the stock. You may have to pay $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to exercise the option and turn it into the stock. That's a lot of money that you're sitting on. It's a taxable event, and then you got to go for another year to make any further gains tax deductible. Yikes. So it's very expensive to convert, and it's a taxable event if you're a non-statutory, okay? So the real big difference that we're playing with here is the non-statutory people, if they choose to convert, that's taxable. Whereas for the statutory people, that's not taxable. Okay, that's really the big deal about it. Okay, but let's face it, almost nobody will convert it into a stock, and then hold it. A, because it's very expensive. Most people don't even have that much capital. And B, it's taxable. So what most people do is they go years and years, 2 years, 3 years, and then one day they exercise and they sell right then and there. Now the problem is, if that's a non-statutory, that's 100% taxable as ordinary income, because it's ordinary income when you convert it, and when you sell it, that's ordinary income. So there's almost no way to escape ordinary income when you have a non-statutory, because most people convert and sell at the same instant because they don't have the capital to do it any other way. Now, in contrast, the statutory people, as long as they've held it for 2 years from the grant, they are able to sell and get long-term capital gains if they, exercise and sell right in the same instant. Okay? Because remember, nobody has enough money to convert and hold and then ride it for another year. But if they exercise and get rid of their stock in the same instant, as long as it's 2 years after their grant, the people who have the statutory, the employees, get that extra kicker where it's not ordinary income. That's the big advantage of a statutory. So one more time, let's review that. Let's take the simple case of a guy who's granted his shares, 3 years goes by, and he decides he doesn't have any money, right? Can't convert them and hold them. He goes in and 3 years later calls up his broker and says, convert them and sell them same instant, give me whatever's left over. Fine. Because it's 3 years gone by, if it's statutory, that guy can convert, sell, and it's long term because he's gone more than 2 years since the grant. Okay? However, if it's a non-statutory, that guy goes 3 years holding. When he converts, ordinary income to come up, and since he's selling at the same instant, there's no further income. The entire income is ordinary income. So that's the difference between a non-statutory and a statutory, is that in real life, what people do is they call their broker and say, cash me out. Go directly from an option directly to cash. And if it's less than 2 years, even the statutory people have to pay ordinary income. Okay. Now that I've tortured you with the details on the statutory versus non-statutory, let me tell you why Rule 83B makes it kinda, sorta not matter. Okay? Here's the rule. 83B, you go ahead and you write within 30 days. You have to make an 83B election. You have to mail a form to the IRS, and you have to say, Mr. IRS, I elect to pay my taxes on whatever the value of what I got is right now. Okay? Now, this is beautiful because many of our clients are getting stock when it's worth nothing, or it's worth very little. It's worth par. So what you do is you send a letter to the IRS and you say, hey guys, I would like to pay my tax up front. And you send them a check for $1,000 or $300 or whatever it is. Okay. Now the bad news here is, if something happens to the stock, if something happens to the stock market, if things don't work out, your 83B money is gone. Okay? So it's not refundable. Okay. So now let's take the scenario. Here's what happens though with an 83B. When you file your 83B, that starts your 1 year long-term capital gains, whether it's statutory or non-statutory. So what that means is, as long as you file your 83B, within 1 year, it becomes long-term capital gains when you go to sell it. And remember, most people just call their broker and say, I have options, flip them, cash them out, and send me the cash all within 1 hour. Those people who do the 83B election have an instant, start the time clock running from the date they submit their 83B form, and they turn that 1 year is exhausted while they hold the option. And when they go to sell, it's long-term capital gains because they've held it for more than a year because the time clock started when the 83B election was done. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if I made the 83B election, does it matter if I'm statutory or non-statutory? The answer is, doesn't matter. Because what you've done is, you've started the time clock going under the 83B election, and you don't have to worry about all of the time clocks that get going on the statutory versus the non-statutory. So the 83B election is a great way. Well, let's do a scenario. So Joe gets his stock January 1st, 2016, and he wants to sell it, March of 2017. Okay, 15 months have gone by. Okay, fine. If he's statutory, that's not long enough. It's not 2 years. Therefore, ordinary income. If you take the non-statutory guy, well, he hasn't even converted them yet, right? When he converts them from options to stocks, that's when his 1 year starts. Clearly, he hasn't gone more than 1 year beyond converting it, so he has ordinary income. But if he had done an 83B election 15 months out, he's golden. Long-term capital gains. Baminga. So, what I'm telling you is there is a difference between the statutory and non-statutory in that the statutory 2 years trips your statutes right off the bat, and anything that happens after 2 years is long-term capital gains, whereas the same is not true for options and get your actual shares. And in reality, most people can never afford to do that, so that never happens, okay? So they end up having ordinary income. 83B takes care of all of those issues by forcing the time clock to start years and then 12 months after the 83B. No matter which plan you're on, you're good to go with long-term capital gains. Okay, now, once again, go and talk to your own CPA, talk to your own tax attorney, verify that this information is still current, and verify that this information is correct for your company, for your tax situation. Do not take this as legal advice. This is geared to trigger a conversation with your CPA, let you be an informed consumer when you have your appointment, and review all this. And who knows, maybe this is a good fit for you, maybe this is a good fit for your company, maybe a different strategy is more important, okay? So this is not legal advice, this is just talking points so you're an informed consumer. Anyway, I hope that this has been informative. I hope this lets you feel a little more comfortable when you go into the process of issuing your stock. Every company should do it. It improves employee performance. The shareholders view your company more favorably if you have involved employees who are also shareholders. It's a good thing all around, and we recommend you do it. What I've given you is a few ideas about the various ways to get it done and the various ways to start the time clock earlier instead of later. Okay, well, I hope this has been valuable. Once again, if you have any questions of a technical nature, feel free to give us a ring and we can discuss it further with you. Take care. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.